All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, and on behalf of the Sex Respect Coalition, we welcome you and hope this is informative and educational and help share some important information for the benefit of parents and children, particularly students of Northeast ISD, the middle school programs. My name is Patrick Von Dillon with the San Antonio Family Association, one of the many organizations that's part of the Sex Respect Coalition, led by Ms. Kelly Greshel. And thanks to her and her moving to the district, to Northeast ISD, and found what was happening, and here I am, been here in the district for 19 years, 20 years almost, and didn't know about the middle school program, what was happening with it, and so I'm very appreciative to Kelly for moving into the district and to bring it to our attention. So we want to start off this meeting as we do with each of our, to ask the intercession of God to help us do what's right all the time, and then we'll do the pledge. So Ms. Valerie Garcia, will you come up and lead us, please?
Please stand in prayer, please. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
May God grant us the wisdom to discover the right, the will to choose it, and the strength to make it endure for the sake of children and long-term domestic prosperity. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Well, it occurred to me just now as we're doing the Pledge of Allegiance, we've seen a lot of our national anthem of late. If you're watching the Olympics, and one thing that just occurred to me is we're talking about something that's terribly being introduced to young people, 11 to 13-year-olds, some 14-year-olds. But how many of those young people that are competing? Some of them, a couple of them not so young, pushing closer to 40 in their 30s, but most of them are young people. And how 4 years ago in England, in London, I believe, was the Olympics there. There was a young woman who was a star, expected to do great things, and she ended up having an embolism from contraceptives. And so it does impact towards later in life. And so what we're talking about is something that could happen much younger in life, and creating a new culture that is one based on contraceptives. And unfortunately, Northeast ISD we believe, has made a lapse in judgment in making the decision they did on May 9th. May 9th, they actually passed a resolution proposed by the Student Health Advisory Committee and CHAC that met in March, and we were all there, thanks to Kelly, and saw them pass their resolution to introduce a new sex ed curriculum called Draw the Line, Respect the Line. It's produced by a company out of California called ETR. And you'll see on some of the material over here, particularly the educator kit over here, it says ETR Associates on there. And they went through a 3-year process of selecting a new curriculum. But the problem is, what Mike had done a great job before saying is, why do we need to change? When we had a program before called Choose the Best Path that was working well, why the change? Where's the empirical data on the necessity to change? So we don't believe that there's necessarily a conspiracy here, but a failure to recognize and know about the existing program and how it was working as compared to the new program. As a matter of fact, one of the trustees, Sandy Wolf, actually asked for a comparison between the two curriculums that they whittled it down to, the one that they had and the one that they were considering, and no such comparison has still yet been made. We've asked for an open records request of that as well. It has not been fulfilled either. It's been way past 10 days. So the Board of Trustees' job is to set policy, and in setting policy, they have a code of conduct and ethics that they have to abide by. I wanted to share it with you. It says, and reads in full, "I will tell the truth. I will share my views while working for consensus. I will respect the majority decision as the decision of the board, and I will base my decision on fact rather than supposition, opinion, or public favor." We do believe that they've fallen prey to potential public favor particularly when it comes to certain interested parties who we believe actually have a conflict of interest. And Kelly will get into that in a little bit. But like the old Wendy's commercial, where's the beef? That's the question as parents, as one parent to another. And I didn't tell you that. I'm a parent. My wife and I are parents of 9 children so far, and 7 of them are in the Northeast Independent School District system, range from high school down to elementary school. And so it's a great concern to me. And so we're going to give you some questions to ask the administration. And please make some notes as you go, and if we need to help you afterwards, we can do that too. But where are the data and facts and the empirical data that says there's a need for changing? In their meetings, the administration said Northeast Independent School District is experiencing one of the greatest amounts of growth of ESD students. And that means economically disadvantaged students, EDS. Well, particularly inside Loop 410. And so that's their acronym, economically disadvantaged students. And because those people are typically in a situation where their parents are not engaged with them and not parenting them, they believe that they need to take over that role. Well, we believe differently. We believe they step over their boundary because that relies still with parents. Even if the parents choose to not be engaged, even if the parents choose not to teach them about sex or whatever else, it's their prerogative as parents, and the school board is stepping over the parental authority boundaries. And we have come to learn that the Student Health Advisory Committee had been researched for 3 years. They felt like when we came in too late, they'd already made a decision. Well, Kelly will show you the decision might have actually been made a year ago, and she'll get more into that. But one of the important things is teenage pregnancy rates have actually not changed, nominally changed over the last 30 years. They're essentially the same. And so again, why? Yes, we have a greater number of EDS students, economically disadvantaged students, but there's no change in teen pregnancy rates from that standpoint. And in actuality, we're not talking about teens here. We're talking about younger than teens, for the most part, 11 and 12, and then 13 and 14. Well, in stepping over the line, they made a decision on May 9th in total. So when they decided, as a matter of fact, just so you know, in full disclosure, the Northeast Independent School District, there's 7 members of that board, and all 7 voted for it. So it was unanimous. And Kelly will tell you about some of the conflicts of interest there, but more importantly, they voted unanimously for it in total. So when they said, we're voting for, draw the line, respect the line, curriculum, they did not put a motion forward, they did not do anything to restrict any information. However, they will tell you that some of the stuff you'll see here today, they're not going to include. We asked them a question, well, how do we find out what you're going to be teaching? They said, go to the manufacturer, the producer, ETR in this case, and get the information. We did. When we said, are you going to show this? They said, no, we're not going to show that. We're going to show this? No, we're going to show this. So we'll go into more detail on that. But it seems rather disingenuous to send us to the manufacturer and then come back and say you're not going to do it. The second part of that is they wanted to move to an evidence-based curriculum. So they said that Choose the Best Path, the former curriculum, was not evidence-based. Although we found out earlier this week it actually is qualified in the state of Texas as evidence-based, which never came up in any of the meetings. The second part of that is if you're going to use an evidence-based programs, everybody in scholastics will tell you you have to have fidelity to that program for it to work. Meaning you have to use everything that they've done. Otherwise, the evidence is undermined because you're not using all the tools and evidence and descriptions. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our first speaker, Mrs. Kelly Greshel, and who's a parent in Northeast ISD and has done a great job of bringing this to our attention and leading this college to educate each of you. So thank you all for being here.
All right. So we're going to be covering a lot of material, and you may have questions or you may want to know where we got some of this information from. The best place to look for or to get copies of some of the stuff that we have would be at our website, which is neisdsexed.com, and we're also happy to answer any questions afterwards. So like I said, this is going to be like a 3 years worth condensed into 30 minutes, so bear with me here. So Patrick alluded to the SHAC, and that's the Student Health Advisory Committee. They are the entity that is comprised of parents and teachers and community members, and they make decisions about whether or not to have Coca-Cola machines or whether or not to do dodgeball or what kind of sex ed programs to recommend. So they recommend a program. They send that up to the school board. The school board decides whether to vote yes or no. In this case, they voted yes for draw the line, respect the line. That means Draw the Line, Respect the Line will be implemented in this year, 2016, 2017, and parents will receive an opt-out form in which they have a choice to either opt their child in or out, and we'll talk some more about that. So what is Northeast ISD going to teach? The Northeast ISD School Board has approved the middle school curriculum Draw the Line, Respect the Line in its entirety, and it includes several lessons as well as possible adaptations. We're not sure which adaptations, they haven't told us that yet, nor does the program come with those adaptations, so we can't see that right now, but what we do know is the curriculum is written to be used as a whole, taught in a particular order with specific objectives, and today we're going to look at some of those objectives so that you can make your own decisions. Okay, we did receive this email from the actual district, so it says the district will present only factual definitions of all types of sex. I assume by all types of sex they mean, well, I guess we'll fill in the blanks there in a second, and so that students understand none is a safe option and there are consequences associated with engaging in any type of sexual activity. And then it goes on to say students will receive guidelines on the use of condoms as provided by the Centers of Disease Control. So there will be instruction on how to put a condom on. So the state of Texas has already determined rules and guidelines for how sex ed can be taught in schools. This Texas code must be used for all sex education courses. And that code is 28.004. So it starts off here in the middle of this little paragraph. Number 2, devote more attention to abstinence from sexual activity than any other behavior. Direct adolescents to a standard of behavior in which abstinence from sexual activity before marriage is the most effective way to prevent pregnancy, STDs, and HIV. And then number 5, teach contraception and condom use in terms of human use reality rates instead of theoretical laboratory use. So what does that mean? Human use and theoretical laboratory. If you test the effectiveness of condoms in a laboratory, you're going to see that 98% mark. If you take the effectiveness from 12-year-olds using it, you're not going to see that high of a effectiveness rate. So the curriculum has to show that realistic use rate. And then last but not least, the school district shall make all curriculum materials using the school district's human sexuality instruction available for reasonable public inspection. So does Draw the Line comply with Texas code? Is abstinence emphasized as the preferred choice? Hi, come in. Is abstinence set as the expected standard of behavior for unmarried students? And is more attention devoted to condoms? Is condom effectiveness portrayed in human use reality or overemphasized as safe sex? So by the time you're done with this presentation, I hope you can answer these questions yourself. Grade 6, here are some of the goals as stated by the actual book. In grade 6, we're emphasizing making good choices, no alcohol, no smoking. Grade 7, we're emphasizing making those good choices, and then also the short-term consequences of having sex, like STDs. And then grade 8, it says feature an HIV positive speaker or a video of an HIV positive speaker, and then also the condom demonstration. So these are the covers of the books. We ordered the curriculum, and I have gone through each one and labeled them with various tabs that mean many different things. So there is all kinds of information here if you'd like to take a look at these tabs and kind of see what your teacher will be reading to your student and what your student will be seeing. This is the age group that we're looking at. These are not 16-year-olds who have a job. These are not 18-year-olds who vote. These are 11, 12, and 13, just kind of getting into that, they eat all the time, they start growing kind of stage. So these are children. Okay, so at all 3 grade levels, Draw the Line treats sex as an eventuality that a child should be ready for by protecting themselves with condoms.
On the other side, please.
You can't see me. So in reality, sex under the age of 13 is illegal without exception. Penal Code 22.11. This law was put into place to protect children from being exploited and abused. It makes sense because if you have a 9-year-old who's having sex, there could be some very, very real problems happening. They could be being abused, it could be being coerced by an older boyfriend or girlfriend, and they need help. In fact, in general, a minor under the age of 17 cannot consent to sex, is what the law says, and a curriculum that truly wanted to protect children would reinforce these laws and help students understand when and where to get help. If you do have a 12-year-old who's having sex, shouldn't we be talking about what the root of that is? Are they being coerced? Is it an abusive situation? And if it is one of those things, how can this child get help instead of just handing them a condom and saying good luck? Where can this child get help? So it does draw the line, respect the line, break the law. I'll let Patrick continue on here.
Can everybody see this? Is this in your way? Okay, so this material right here comes from ETR. ETR, again, is the manufacturer, producer of the new Draw the Line, Respect the Line curriculum, sex ed curriculum that was passed by Northeast Indiana School District Board of Trustees on May 9th. And so, again, we said, how do we know what you're going to teach? And you're taking all of it, you're taking parts of it. They said, go to the manufacturer. We did. So Kelly got all the curriculum books and was going through them, so I would highly encourage you to go through those books and look at the tabs and evaluate. She has the tabs color-coded, so you can see how many are absent referred to and how many are not absent, and the other things referred to. It's very, very interesting from a weightings perspective. We got the educator kit, and this is part of it. And we're going to show you a video right now that comes with it. Now, in full disclosure, Northeast Indiana School District has said they're not going to use any of the videos, and they're not going to use the educator kit. But there's nothing that restricts them. Again, from that standpoint, I have right here, this is the agenda. We have the agenda in the minutes from May 9th in the Board of Trustees meeting. I'm going to read you exactly what it says. It's under May 9th, article number 10, B1. It says possible action regarding School Health Advisory Council, SHAC, Middle School Human Sexuality Abstinence Education Recommendation. Presenters Donna Newman, Associate Superintendent for Campus Administration and Human Resources, Rachel Naylor, Director of Physical Education, Health, and Athletics. That's all it says. And that's what was passed on May 9th. So as we know and understand it, is they passed the curriculum in total, and there was no motions made to distribute. So what all comes with it? This is part of what comes with the curriculum. They say it's not going to be used. Okay, if you would.
It's easy to use condoms. When you know the right way to use them, they're more effective. And I guarantee that sex is better when both you and your partner know what you're doing with a condom. Both men and women need to know how to use condoms. So let's go over it. I'm going to show you how to put a condom on a partner, but these are the same steps that a guy would take when putting a condom on himself. Always use a latex condom. They're highly effective at preventing pregnancy, HIV, and other STDs. If you or your partner is allergic to latex, you can use a plastic condom instead. Check the expiration date on the package. If it's past the date, use a newer condom. The package should look new. If it looks worn or damaged, use a new condom. Press slightly on the package to make sure that it's airtight, with no holes or tears. If there's a leak of any kind, use a new condom. When you finish checking the package, you're ready to open the condom. Open it carefully. Teeth, fingernails, and other sharp objects can damage the condom. Take it out of the package and see which way it unrolls. The condom will unroll easily when it's facing this way, but not when it's facing this way. The condom goes on as soon as the penis is hard and erect. Let me get my assistant. Pinch the tip to leave about ½ an inch at the end. This leaves room for the semen so that the condom doesn't break when the man ejaculates. Hold it against the head of the penis. Then with your other hand, unroll it all the way down to the base of the penis. You can use some water-based lube on the outside of the condom now if you want. And that's it. After ejaculation, after the guy comes, take the penis out while it's still hard. Hold the rim of the condom around the base as it's pulled out. Be careful not to spill any semen. Take the condom off away from the partner's body. You can tie off the end and throw it in the trash. Don't flush it down the toilet. That can clog up the plumbing. If you're going to have sex again, use a new condom. Don't ever reuse a condom. How easy was that? Some condoms come lubricated, and others don't. Even with a lubricated condom, you might want to use some extra lube. Don't use oil-based lubes like Vaseline or lotion. Those can cause the condom to break. Be sure to use water-based lubes, like these. Some guys like to put a few drops in the tip before putting the condom on. But don't overdo it. Too much lube can make the condom fall off. Practice will help you feel comfortable and confident when using a condom. So make sure to get in lots of practice. Men can practice while masturbating. Women can use their imagination and practice on something that sort of looks like a penis. Remember, condoms help prevent pregnancy and STD, including HIV. Use a condom every time you have sex. Relax, stay safe, and have fun.
What do you say after that? It's pretty astounding to think that this might be shown. Now, again, they say it's not going to be shown, but it is part of the curriculum. This is what. And it comes with a brochure like this, says condom facts, and other things like this. I'm going to go through this here in just a second. But a couple of things to take away from the video that are very disturbing to me as a parent. One, her attire to begin with is rather suggestive. But she refers to man and men several times and talking about the man when the man ejaculates. We're not talking about men here. We're talking about 11 to 13, some 14-year-olds. These are not men. So, and then the video is targeted, geared towards, as if she's speaking to other women, other girls, on how to put on and take off the condom off of the guy, the man. And so it could infers to me that this young girl is having a sexual encounter with somebody that's older.
Yes.
And considerably older, and that could be problematic from the standpoint it actually could violate the Texas, not only Texas code, but the penal code, and there could be sexual abuse involved the way it's done. The other thing that's sort of funny is don't throw it in the trash. Make throw it in the toilet, throw it in the trash. Make sure as long as you do it, you're environmentally safe. You're okay. Then she refers to some guys like to have a few drops put in a certain place. We're talking about children here that have never experienced sex before, and you're introducing sex to them. Again, how do you have that data, and how do you know how do they know they already want it? So it seems to me that the video is geared towards another level of person, and so very dangerous from that standpoint. And as Kelly mentioned before, could there be something else going on here with sexual abuse or something else? So it's very important from that standpoint. Not to mention the whole idea of promoting masturbation by sons is outrageous from my perspective. And the other thing is that they give the perception that condoms protect from STD and HIV completely, and that's not a false reality. That's actually bunk. And science has shown that microscopically viruses are much smaller than the condom, and so they pass through. Can it help prevent from pregnancy? Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily help protect, and it's a fraction of the body surfaces that are touching when you're talking about sexually transmitted diseases. So problematic, and that might be why they chose. They're saying they're not going to show it, but again, nothing stops them from showing it in the future because they passed the curriculum in total. This is this brochure right here, folded out. Is this one right here? Something very disturbing up here is it says using condoms is like learning to wear a seatbelt all the time. It takes practice to make it a habit. So philosophically, we're moving from a situation where we're teaching kids about their bodies and about what they might encounter to promoting an activity so they can enjoy it more and be safe and relax, be able to relax. So outrageous for this QR code right over here. I'll pass this around. You can take a snapshot with your smartphone. It'll take you to the 3 videos. One of them included here. Again, Northeast ISD has said they're not going to use the videos.
Well, they're not going to use it. They're going to turn around and just here's how you get to it.
Well, they might give out the brochure. They might give them different ways. That's right. And so, most kids, a lot of kids have smartphones.
And we have yet to see that in writing, so we don't absolutely know that.
Okay, next slide. Okay, what does Northeast ISD do good? Because Northeast ISD does some very good things in teaching life skills to children. I've seen it for my children, and I appreciate it. And one of the ways they do that is through teaching the 7 habits of happy kids. It's taken from the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I'm going to go through them real quickly. Be proactive. You're in charge of you. I'm in charge of me. Begin with the end in mind. Have a plan. Put first things first. Think win-win so everybody can win. Seek first, understand and be understood. Synergize together is better, and sharpen, solve, balance, the best. What I was looking for was, do they teach this throughout their education upbringing, elementary, middle school, and high school? And they do. It's very consistent, and it's scholastically consistent and intellectually honest, and that's good. The other virtues they teach are very good about compassion, responsibility, perseverance, self-discipline, honesty, respect, and giving. And some here that are particularly important when it comes to sex and be responsible there is responsibility, perseverance, self-discipline, and respect. Do they teach those consistently? They do, and that's very good. So why the divergence from that philosophy and taking a divergence when it comes to sex? That's a question as you as parents, I would encourage you to take and ask Northeast Independent School District Administration why the philosophical change only for sex and sexual education. Next one. So what are we talking about here? I mentioned a minute ago that Choose the Best Path actually found out that is actually approved in the state of Texas as an evidence-based program. Kelly might or might not mention, I can't remember, there's 37 different approved programs, right? Evidence-based programs in the state of Texas they could have selected from. They whittled it down to draw the line, respect the line, and that's what they voted on and passed. But they didn't include choose the best path, the current one they had, in those 37, right? So from that standpoint, so they never mentioned that that was considered evidence-based. The other thing that they didn't mention was, well, I'll come back to that. So what's the difference in risk avoidance and risk reduction? Because we went from a risk avoidance program, choose the best path, to a risk reduction program, which is draw the line, respect the line. What's the difference? And those are technical terms. So it's, the best way to describe it is a one-way street versus a two-way street. So how many people drop off their children at school? It's a one-way street, right? That's for risk avoidance, so you don't have anybody get hit by a vehicle. What risk reduction says is, well, if you choose not to drive, one way is best, but if you choose to drive two ways, make sure you have a grill guard on your vehicle so you protect your vehicle. That's basically the logic, and it's illogical. And from that standpoint, so I want to share with you a couple other things, a couple other examples to give you some food for thought. Those are no smoking. And I'm going to run through the risk avoidance one. I'm going to run through those real quick. No cheating, no smoking, no drugs, no bullying, no drinking and driving, no guns, no knives, no sex, no texting and driving, male and female bathrooms. All examples of risk avoidance. Okay? And one-way streets. What's the difference? Because what Northeast Independent School District has told us is that, well, children are going to do it anyway. We have to prepare them for the eventuality of them doing it anyway. They don't do that on drugs, alcohol, or anything else. They don't diverge from no drugs, no alcohol, no texting and driving. So, but kids are going to do it anyway when it comes to sex. So let's give some analogies from that. Well, children are supposed to be lice-free when they attend school, right? That'd be like saying risk reduction is your children are going to attend school with lice as long as they wear a shower cap. If you're going to smoke, make sure it's a filtered cigarette. If you're going to drink and drive, make sure the bottle is in a brown paper bag. If you're going to text and drive, make sure your phone's in a phone case. Those are, I mean, it's illogical from that standpoint to take that attitude and change philosophically from a risk avoidance to risk reduction. And that's what this is getting at. So let's go educationally, what is the difference between SRA on the top left and SRR on the top right? SRA is sexual risk avoidance. In the right, SRR, sexual risk reduction. That code word for that is typically called comprehensive sex education, or CSE, comprehensive sex education, what they call it. On the left is the former curriculum that was called Choose the Best Path. So the emphasis is on 50% or more of the page content is on abstinence, and the focus is on risk elimination, abstinence. The best way for them to stay healthy is to avoid sexual contact. The philosophy is that teen sex and even casual sex is problematic. And it's best if you wait until marriage before you engage in that. And that's the healthiest thing you can do is delay sexual initiation. So what was passed on May 9th is SRR, sexual risk reduction, comprehensive sex education, in this case called draw the line, respect the line. And typically what we find is, I think Kelly would assert the same, that less than 50%, dramatically less than 50% is devoted to abstinence. In most cases, 5% about. Now that violates what Kelly went over was Texas Education Code 28.004. Is by law, they have to have 50% or more of the page content devoted to abstinence. And it seems that that's a violation. What's it focused on? Risk reduction. It's focused also that contraception is, as long as contraception is used, teen sex or casual sex is unproblematic, and it's okay. It's expected, actually. And the intention is to increase contraceptive use. So just because sex education curriculum emphasizes abstinence does not mean that condoms are not discussed. Rather, it's the way condoms are discussed is important. So they can throw in the word abstinence and still have a bunch of other material about condoms and using it, and be detrimental to children. Okay, so this is a comparison between the two programs. Choose the best path on the top, draw the line, respect the line. And it's really rocked my world just to find out, I found out earlier this week, thanks to Valerie, that choose the best path is actually evidence-based and considered that. And I'm just still shell-shocked by that, just saying, why didn't they admit that? Why didn't they think about that? Why didn't they take that into consideration and consider it for the new curriculum? This information actually comes from Choose the Best Path and the company. but it's based on their evidence-based studies on both, and it's consistent with the other evidence that we've seen. So what's their evidence? If somebody's gone through a year of program of choosing the best path, is the students who received the curriculum reported that they were significantly more likely, 1.5 times, so 1.5 times, to delay sexual initiation or that behavior in a control group as compared to the group that did not receive it. And in short, draw the line, respect the line. Their summary was, after a year, there was no statistically significant program impact for girls or any measure outcome on any of the intervals, 7th, 8th, or 9th grade. From that standpoint, and I know we're not talking about 9th grade here, but 7th and 8th grade as far as middle school goes. And so one has some impact, positive impact, the other doesn't. The top one actually is sexual risk avoidance program, the bottom is a sexual risk reduction program. And what I'd like to finish with is to have you consider, so what are the life lessons we want our children to experience? We want them to be taught that abstinence is best and what's healthiest, delay sexual initiation, or to experiment and use condoms and think about. I can say from my personal experience, my children, while I'm not sure that they would actually talk to me versus mom about it, my wife, but based on behavior and everything else, show no inkling of having any considerations of sexual encounters at that age. But this would be planting seeds. We're constantly planting seeds in our children's minds. And my wife was reminding me last night that I need to correct something about myself. But we're planting seeds all the time to germinate. Well, this is planting seeds in a way that's completely divergent from their scholastic teaching and that abuses parental authority and circumvents parental authority. So think about it and ask, where is the intellectual honesty in this program, and where is the scholastic consistency as compared to all the other lifestyle risk avoidance programs that they have? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to direct y'all to the folders here. In these folders, we have a packet of information, and it's basically the full copies of what you're going to see on the screen. I know it's hard to read on the screen, so I just kind of printed it out for y'all so y'all can see a little bit better. I'll give these folders back at the end of the session, but if you have any questions about the material in them, I can help get you in connection with that material. So we're going to go to the third page, and we're looking for Tina and Marco. So one thing that I noticed while reading through all these books, and there's about 3 really big stories, is that I saw a lot of sexual role play. And so what does sexual role play mean? That means so kids are going to encounter these kinds of risky situations, but how are we going to help them understand and deal with those situations? Are we going to practice the wrong way, or are we going to practice the right way? I believe these stories practice the wrong way, so let's talk about some of the things that happen. So they go to a party, nobody's home, they're drinking some kinds of alcohol in it. Marco begins to touch Tina in ways that feel kind of good, but are also a little embarrassing. Then Tina and Marco go into the bedrooms, and they were lying on the bed, kissing and touching. They didn't really talk about having sex, it just happened. And so here we are, instead of saying, we get to the party, there's alcohol, immediately, I tell my friend, no thanks, I think I need to go, this is obviously not a good situation. Instead, we have a little how-to of how to get sex started. So kissing, touching, whatever you need to do that. On the next page, we have the worksheet that goes along with this lesson. Tina is feeling scared, her period is 3 days late, she worries she might be pregnant. She tells Marco, what are they thinking? So this is a 7th grade lesson. The way you can tell is at the bottom it says grade 7. So at grade 7, students will be discussing with each other and with the teacher what she should do at this point. This is a very sensitive conversation and might need a little bit of a parental guidance, in my opinion, but that's something you need to decide for yourself. Let's move on to James and Alana. Alana has a friend, Lisa. She thinks it's smart and sexy to have sex. It's also the best way to keep a guy interested in you. James is a guy who's not sure if he wants to have sex, but he doesn't want to be the last guy in the world to have sex, so that'd be really uncool. So then they get together, and he thinks, this must feel as good to her as it does to me, otherwise she'd tell me, right? We're talking about a rape culture here in which there is no communication, in which the line just keeps getting pushed further and further until girls are in situations, and then you have some real disturbing news stories coming out. So this is not helping that culture. So if we turn the page, we have Trina and Kashid. Trina just had a fight with her family, and she's feeling vulnerable, so she goes to her boyfriend Kashid's house, where his parents are not home. When Trina came over, they hung out for a while in the living room. Then Kashid put his arms around Trina, and they began to kiss. They were both a little nervous at first, but pretty soon Kashid was touching Trina through her clothes. They get to work pretty quick, but then he noticed how much he was enjoying it and thought, she knew we'd be alone. Maybe she wants it. Everybody seems to think it's what we're supposed to do. Maybe just this once, it won't be a problem. The only reason that they don't have sex is because their parents come in. Where in this are we talking about teaching children these kinds of behaviors that are going to help them handle these situations? Where do we talk about Trina saying, hi Kashid, I'm in one of those, I don't feel real good right now, I don't think this is a good idea. Nowhere, we're not practicing the correct way to handle these types of situations. Okay, so once children have been taught how to have sex through sexual role plays and condom demonstrations, Draw the Line gives clinic options and anonymous hotline phone numbers. The curriculum does not list talking to your parents as an option if you're seeking medical treatment or you've had sex. So our parents' rights to be involved in their children's medical care being undermined and usurped. So if we go into Shannon's story, Shannon has genital herpes. She's a little bit nervous, but she's decided to call the CDC line. It's an anonymous line, and she knows nobody will know who she is. The woman tells Shannon that she could go to a personal doctor, a clinic at school, a clinic through a local health department, or even a teen clinic that treats people with STDs. Not once does it say tell your parents. And again, this is a grade 7. These are 12-year-olds. Okay, next homework sheet here, STD fact sheet. Where can teens go if they think they have an STD? A health clinic, a teen school clinic, a special STD clinic, a regular doctor or healthcare provider. No parents. Again, at 12 years old, you might be allergic to medication, even penicillin. And you walk into that teen health clinic and don't tell that doctor, you might have some real problems here. Then we go on to some STD homework. This is where they encourage the student to either get on the website or call the CDC and ask them questions about STDs. And I don't know about you, but I have a teaching degree, but you're trained on how to speak to children. You can't say certain things, especially in a sexual nature. And in this case, are these people on the other end of the hotline trained in that? Are they going to say something that might be inappropriate to my child? That's a good question. Should we be encouraging children to talk to strangers about sex? I don't really know if that's Northeast ISD's role. Now let's move on to the next thing, a talk show script. This is where the teacher is actually talking to the students. And what does she say? As soon as something is wrong, or if you have unprotected sex, you should see a doctor. Not your parents, but a doctor. And this is unprotected sex, so we could be talking about maybe even pregnancy. Again, the separation of the child and the parent is how we create this kind of world in which students are confused and not sure what to do, and they're in these kinds of situations that are just negative all over. So, next slide, please, Patrick. All right, so let's go back to the SHAC. So the Student Health Advisory Committee, or the SHAC, is made up of teachers, community members, and parents must be the majority. That is according to Title I, Chapter 28. The SHAC itself has many subcommittees. One of them is the sex ed subcommittee. Another subcommittee is like the nutrition subcommittee, and then maybe might also have physical education, and they decide things like, should there be celery in the lunch, should we play dodgeball, things like that. But the most cool and most fun one to be in is the sex ed subcommittee, because when I went, that was the table that was the most full. When I walked into that SHAC, sex ed subcommittee, everybody had name tags, and some were parents, and you could kind of tell because their name tags just said their name. And some were teachers, and you could tell because it would say, Northeast ISD physical education. And some were community members, I thought. I wasn't quite sure, because they had lots of different names. Can I get the next slide? They had names like Project Worth, UT Teen Health, Healthy Futures, Metro Health, Teen Pregnancy Prevention Coalition. And I thought, what are all of these groups doing here? Turns out that over 20% that were represented at that table were these outside groups. And what does this mean? I believe that there is a vested interest. So the reason that those groups were there were to either push or to reinforce something that was already a part of Northeast ISD's menu. And in this case, we're talking about a grant, a $10 million grant. So I have in your packet several pages in which you can get all of this online. It's all free information of all the grants that have been awarded here in San Antonio and what they're supposed to be used for. And they're supposed to be used for sex ed. So UT Teen Health received a $10 million grant, and they have 5 years in which to implement it, and they need a district to implement it in. That's where Northeast ISD comes into the equation. So if they can guarantee that Northeast ISD is going to use the grant, and only certain sex ed programs can be taught depending on the grant, then they need to make sure that Northeast ISD's SHAC approves whichever sex ed education program is on that grant. So here is an MOU. It's a memorandum of understanding between the City of San Antonio and Northeast Independent School District. And it says, Northeast ISD intends to collaborate with the city during the planning phase to ensure school, parent, and community support. to ensure parent support. Where is the non-biased vote in that? When was that signed? A year ago. Okay, so we just, supposedly the parents just approved this program, Draw the Line, this year, but this was already signed a year ago. Was there some coercion? Was this a non-biased shack? That's my question. I would like to know. And so, let's see here. Can I get the next slide? Here are some of our key players. So, Diane Bulliard, she is a nurse at Northeast ISD. She also sits on the board of Healthy Futures. Healthy Futures is a program at the city level. She has a lot of voting power in the sex ed subcommittee because she is a part of it, and she is also under the influence of her boss who started Healthy Futures, Janet Riolini. Janet Riolini is involved in a lot of different programs, Project Word, this Teen Pregnancy Prevention Coalition, and she has also written the Northeast ISD High School Sex Education Program, Big Decision. So Janet Riolini has a lot of reason for Northeast ISD to pick her programs. She's a vested interest, and she can exercise that interest through Diane Bulliard, who can vote in Janet Riolini's favor. We also have one of our school board members, Letty Bresnahan, I always say it wrong, but she actually works for UT Teen Health. That's her 9-to-5 job. So is there a conflict of interest from her being a part of the school board vote that decided whether or not UT Health Science Center was going to have a very active role in the sex education program? That's a good question. Now, Mario Martinez, he's the gentleman who did all the presenting. So like I said, I walked into that shack, I sat down, I saw those different entities and parents and teachers and things. And Mario Martinez would kind of show everybody like a table like this and say, draw the line, it's going to take this many weeks, and it has this objective, and, blah, blah, blah. Pretty bland stuff. He never read any of the curriculum to you like we just did. He never showed a worksheet like I just did. And all the parents and teachers who aren't professional sex educators looked at him, asked questions, and said, okay, that sounds good, makes sense. This guy knows what he's talking about. This gentleman, Mario Martinez, then presented to the entire shack the same kind of, bland presentation and the whole shack without looking at any of the curriculum or material, without hearing any of the role plays, said, yeah, that sounds good, and they voted to approve it. That was sent to the school board, where again, Mario Martinez came with the same bland presentation, and the school board, without having looked at it, without having read it, said, sure, yeah, that looks good, and it was voted in. And so it seems to me that there should have been much more research. So why does UT Teen Health want to be a part of Northeast ISD's shack? Because they benefit from it directly. Here we have UT Teen Health building an actual clinic on a campus. Here we have UT Teen Health coming to your school during lunchtime with pamphlets. So even if you opted your child out, you don't want your child to know about anal sex, they can still find out at lunchtime, which is a really, I believe, that very much usurps the parental rights. If you need access to a clinic and you can't drive yourself to one, they'll send a bus to you. So this is Metro Health's UT Teen Health bus, and they come to you and they can bring all the services that you would get at a regular clinic right to your front door. Does this make your child their client? That's a good question. Why are they going behind parents' backs and infiltrating the schools? Another good question. You have to have a form if you want your child to have aspirin at school, but they can walk out to this bus and get themselves some free condoms anytime they want. That seems to say that parents don't know what's best for their child. Okay, so after all of this, we've heard about the condom, we've heard about the STDs, we've heard about usurping parents' rights. Does draw the line, respect the line work? And the answer is not for girls. Not for girls. It barely helps boys, but the study found no statistically significant program impacts for girls on any of the outcomes. And they followed these girls for, I believe, over a year, and you have that study also in your packet, so you can look at it more. If we were going to pick a program, even if I was a very big proponent of one of these SRR programs that has condoms and stuff, I would want to pick one that works. Why spend millions of dollars and so much time implementing something that doesn't work for girls? I just think that doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, so if not draw the line, then what? Currently, there's a list of approved evidence-based programs that Patrick alluded to. I believe there's about 37 on that list. We're asking the shack go back to this list and pick a curriculum that better serves the students and parents of Northeast ISD. We recently learned that the program they had last year is on this list. So we could stick with that program and not invest any more money, or we could go back to this list and pick one that is, nice and shiny and new. That's kind of what we're asking for the school board to consider, and that's something we want you to ask them too if you contact them. So what can you do as parents? You can opt your child out and draw the line. This is a form, and it's also in your packet. And this is what it looks like. And there is an area at the bottom here where you can check, no, I do not want my student to participate. We encourage you to do so. You can also tell your principal that you don't want to draw the line in your school. You can tell your school board member that you don't want your child subjected to draw the line. And if your school board trustee doesn't protect your child, vote them out. They work for you. The district is divided up by trustees, and it's usually by high school. Like this is Johnson High School area, and so Shannon Grona is our trustee, and so you can contact her. We also have some action items over here if you want their emails and things and their office numbers and stuff like that. You can also join the shack, which would mean you'd be a part of that decision-making process, and we really recommend that. The deadline for that application is coming up on the 15th, and we have some of those applications here. And then if you have any questions, please visit us here. You can also get our email from there. Are there any questions? We have some time for that. Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying that those buses and the condoms and everything else can show up on that day whether we opt our kids out or not?
Correct. They don't walk around.
And we don't even have to know about it?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Or really, is that right? Maybe we should be asking Northeast ISD and saying, is that right?
Even though we have to sign a parental notice that they can take aspirin, but we don't have to know if our child gets taken to the clinic.
Right, right. And that's something one of the parents challenged me in another meeting is, how do you know this is right? So I called the hotline and pretended to be 15, and my friend was 13, almost 14, and we weren't sure if our mom would be cool with birth control, but we had started having sex. And they told me, you could come in right today and we can see you and give you some options. And so depending on the funding that they get, again, it's all about those grants, depends on whether or not you have to have a parent's permission form. So you could walk in there with a permission form that you forged and get birth control without your parents knowing.
So, like with everything that you put up there, it's like they're trying to build more clientele.
Sure. I mean,
For the
they
future.
can't make money if you're not having sex.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Being an ex-cop for the military, we work very closely with the state and city law enforcement. This isn't the only state where it is. Not only can your child forge your signature, but there are other programs where, depending on the funding, it is completely legal for your child to do it. That it's not saying you have no legal recourse.
But if your child does it and you don't know about it till 2 years later, you know, the damages can be
The
done.
damage is done,
Yeah.
Kelly,
unfortunately, but you do have legal recourse,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
the Northeast Independent School District Administration has said that the numerous of lessons will not be included. What will they have to manually do?
Yes. So each of these. So when we bought the kit, and we bought it just the same way they would buy it. They come with these workbooks, and in these workbooks they have a lot of the same worksheets that you have there in your packet. So if they just said, okay, hey, we're going to take out that lesson about Tina and Marco, we're not going to do that one, they'd have to rip out almost half of this workbook because there's so many worksheets that are dedicated to Tina and Marco. It's unrealistic, and it's not going to happen. The teachers aren't going to sit there and say, okay, kid, turn to page 32, rip it out. Turn to page 34, rip it out. Because the kids will be like, what's on 32? What's on 34? It's not going to be.
You know, the forbidden fruit.
Yeah, it's a forbidden fruit thing. And why would we buy a program and spend all this money and time and have it shipped to us and then not use half of it? It doesn't make sense. Then pick a better program is my, it's just like a weight loss thing. If you're going to, do this weight loss thing, but you're also going to do all this on the side, why are you buying into this program then to begin with? Yes, ma'am.
So if the no smoking cigarette program has worked so well,
Yes, and it has.
and it has, they're just telling us this won't work and they're going to have sex anyway.
Yep.
Okay, but it's amazing to me. Let's see. Let's take Joe Camel down and we'll put a condom on. Hey,
But-
there you go.
Two things about that. One is, Northeast Independent School District used to have smoking sections in their high schools. My wife attended Churchill High School, and there were designated smoking areas there. So will those be replaced with something like that? It's outlandish to think of and suggest, because it's so ludicrous to do, but
Yeah.
that is basically what they're promoting. The other part is that, as I have 4 children in high school now this year, and one of them actually is doing the STEM program at Lee High School. I took him over there, and they're in the band program, and was walking in the main building. They have some brand new buildings there, under construction. And there's a picture on the window walking in. It's a picture of 4 colors of balloons, red, yellow, green, and blue. And it says, no latex balloons allowed inside. No latex balloons allowed inside. And it's just comical to me that they would be that, but we're going to replace them with latex condoms and allow them to be inside. Actually, it's legal to be distributed. So quite funny. But something that wasn't mentioned before, I'd like to come back to, is this brochure that I'll pass around to you. If this isn't all disturbing enough for you, and the condoms being promoted and everything, is on the back of this brochure that could be part of the bus. They might not give it out to the kids in school, but it could be given to them at lunch, or it could be on the bus, because they're going to get these with the material. It says this: ask your healthcare provider about emergency contraceptive pills. They can prevent pregnancy if a condom breaks. Well, they've now left promoting condoms to promoting what's called Plan B, which is a drug that causes 2 things in a woman, and that's the destruction of the embryo, a fertilized egg, and eradication from her uterus. And so she flushes the baby. And so, again, without parental permission or reference to them.
And doesn't that Plan B take several days? It's not just a one-time deal. I think, does it take several
No, it
days?
doesn't.
No, this is a one pill.
It's the one-
pill.
okay,
But
but
you have
it
to
takes-
take it within 72 hours, 48 to 72 hours of having sex.
Okay, but I mean, for
But
the
it's one
process,
pill.
but for the process to occur, doesn't it take over a couple of days?
I guess that would kind of depend on what's going on.
It takes, you take the pill and then it works within 24 to 48 hours. And you don't necessarily bleed.
The second part of that is, what about condom breakage? Kelly referred to it before. There's a study, an organization out of Austin, we have it at the office, didn't bring it here with it, but they have done a reality test, evidence-based program based on effectiveness rate of condoms. They said you can't just have lab tests, you have to have a reality test. Well, this is a reality test of people, of adults using condoms, and the effectiveness rate is 22%. That means that there's no such thing as a 100% effective condom user, even the people who are best at it and using it. So 12-year-olds, again, as Kelly referenced, we're talking about a 22% effectiveness rate, and much lower than that because of their age. Yes, ma'am.
And maybe you're talking a 22% effectiveness rate of the condom for pregnancy, but you can get HIV every day of the month.
Yes, ma'am.
And like
That's
you
correct.
said earlier, condoms do not prevent HIV, so you're actually exposing a child to
Great risk.
for the rest of their life.
That's right. Something they'll carry around like luggage, some say. So what does this look like? Sadly, this concept and this philosophy looks a lot like a business model that a certain business has, and that business is called Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood's mission is to get children to experiment sexually, and that could be oral, anal, or vaginal, and use contraceptives. They know that the greater use of contraceptives leads to more sex with a false confidence, and leads to pregnancy, which leads to their primary business of surgical abortion. And I bring that up to the last because not the conspiring, not that Northeast ISD is working with Planned Parenthood, but that philosophy is very similar to the business concept and model as Planned Parenthood. And one last thing about ETR, the manufacturer, thanks to Valerie, just 2 days ago, this was put on ETR's Facebook page. It says, birth control has been around for 4,000 years. Isn't it time you knew all about it? It's an old Planned Parenthood ad. The ETR, the curriculum manufacturer and producer of Draw the Line, Respect the Line, just put on their Facebook page. So there's too much similarity here from that standpoint. You need to know about it, and not to say that they're in collusion, but to ask the question. So ask the question of Northeast Independent School Board: is ETR having any affiliation with Planned Parenthood? And they did. They had a direct affiliation, a common ownership when they began. Now they have an indirect affiliation. And so ask them, did you read? Some questions to take away, and Kelly, you might add to this. Questions to ask the administration is, did you read the curriculum before you voted on it? We have a federal program that's taking a lot of heat for people voting on it without reading it before, too, that's impacted our lives dramatically. Did you read it before? Did you see, have you decided who's going to teach it? Because that's still not set. We still don't know who's going to teach it. What lessons and implements, tools are not going to be included. We want it in writing. And then are there going to be any other situations where other vendors will come in to the school that won't be in the sex ed class that they might be introduced to this. So those are just some more questions to ask. Ask about the affiliation of ETR with Planned Parenthood. Ask about why the change in philosophy on everything else is risk avoidance to the scholastically inconsistent and intellectually dishonest to sex, where the kid's going to do it anyway. So we got to man them with equipment to where they don't get sick, contract a disease, or get pregnant.
That program works that way, then why don't you use it?
Yes. So any other? Oh, thank you very much. Kelly alluded to it. We are SHAC is taking in applications right now. Monday, she said the 15th. Monday is the deadline for that. We need parents and people to be on the SHAC that will represent parents and be able to stand up and for the good, for the sake of children, as God led us in a prayer to begin with. It's for the sake of children and for their long-term domestic prosperity. Second is, Valerie's got a petition in her hand. You can sign that today. I'm sorry for the small print in the text of what the petition says, that really addresses what we went over today. You can also take some, fill them out. There's an address at the bottom to mail them out. Please make sure they fill them out completely, or they won't accept them as a valid petition. And there's an example at the top on the first blank to do that. The other is, there are action sheets over here with all their information. Highly encourage you, please contact them, call them, fax them, email them, set a meeting with them. If we don't do that as parents, they're not going to listen to anybody else. So thank you very much for your time.
And you want these back with the stuff on the inside, correct?
Yeah, you can keep the PowerPoint
The
packet.
initial outside packet, but the inside, that is in the folder's got to go back.
So thank you. And if you have a business or you want to get a group of people together and us present for an hour on this at somewhere else, we'll make arrangements to do that. This is our last scheduled parent education seminar, but we'll be glad to hold another one if you want to put it together. So thank you very much for your attention.